Previously on the Praying and Slayin Podcast.
So again, could I have handled all this stuff better if I'd been ready? I mean, you're never going to be ready for the phone call I got. I hope you're not.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready for another phone call, but I'm in a lot better. I'm going to take action now immediately because I know what to do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it has to be done because I've been there and done that before. But yeah, it's you're not ready. You don't expect it. And some people don't want to say anything. They want to be polite. Well, obviously I wasn't that guy. And I handled that situation, but I was that funerals and the viewings. That's not for the one that's gone. It's for everybody left.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Prayin and Slayin Podcast. My name is Aaron, your host, and we're excited to wrap up this three-part series with Ken Graham talking about strong men today, and the meaning of what that looks like, and how to be strong for your family, and just a whole bunch of other stuff as he wraps up this again heartbreaking story about his losing his boy and being that example for the sons that he still has here on earth to guide them into their purpose and to show them what it means to be a man that takes action. So sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy this final episode from Fix Yourself with Ken Graham.
I looked at the hurt on my boys, having to do this in public because, the families are kind of out there for everybody to look at in their worst moment. If you think about that, a funeral home, What's it for? He's gone. But now everybody gets to look at the family and see how they're handling it. Let's look at the dad and look at the mom and look how sad the kids are. I mean, something's not right about that. But I remember telling the boys, I'm like, come on, we got to go do some man stuff. Which it's important. And what I was saying to them and I'm saying to you is we have to show them how to handle the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they know and they don't get caught, and have never seen it before, never been through it. I'm not saying go do a class on how to navigate your way through a sales pitch at a cemetery. I'm just saying they learn how to navigate life, and they learn what manhood is by what they see their dad do.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be their very first inclination in any time of stress, is to resort back to what they've seen their dad do. So all the dads out there that are watching, think about if they knew all the bad shit you really did, or the things you think about. Or think about if they had recordings of you at your worst when you're partying and drinking, and would you want them to see that? And if you wouldn't, then don't do that anymore.
It's the weirdest feeling in the world, man, when you turn around and it doesn't have to, it can be something halfway innocent, but like the same thing, like getting a drink or anything like that, right? Like something you don't even think about. You turn around and that little set of eyes is on you, and that's all they're doing, absorbing what you're doing. And you don't know what you're teaching them in that one.
So think about this. So my oldest one watched me live not the right lifestyle for a long time. So I promise you, I have guilt that I planted something in him that I couldn't fix in time for him to still relate manhood's about hanging out, partying, drinking, taking a pill if to fix the problem. He saw me take medicine my whole life. I've got back issues, and haven't been able to even losing 100 pounds. I've been out of commission for the last 2 weeks. That hasn't helped my back issue. So losing a bunch of weight don't fix everything. But our kids are desensitized to medications, pharmaceuticals. They're desensitized to it. If you don't feel right, take a pill, take medication, especially the ones that's killing these kids. They're familiar with this stuff. The last thing in the world they're thinking is that I'm not going to wake up from this. They're thinking I'm probably making a smart choice here. Of all the things out there to do, I know what this is. This can't hurt me because doctors give it to you. That's the really sad part of that. But my point was, straighten up and get your act together as soon as possible. If nothing else, you want to be that example for the young ones you brought into the world they're learning how to handle the hard stuff from watching how you do it. And if you just go get hammered drunk and gain 100 pounds and lay around for a year, you're not fulfilling that role. You're definitely not being a godly father. And you're not being much of a father at all. I get it. Trust me, I get it. I'm not saying I heard about somebody doing it. That was me. So you don't have to do it that way. But if it takes you that to figure it out and to get yourself on board that you're going to own this and you're willing to do the work to put yourself in a position to be helpful to other people, then however you get there, I think that's great.
Yeah, man. No, I love it. And you were talking about Jordan Peterson earlier. I listened to a random snippet of his stuff came on maybe the radio yesterday or the day before, and I think you might have touched it the last time you and I talked about this stuff before the podcast. But he says that little boys, like he was talking about, the whole like hard times create hard men and soft times create soft men, that whole bit there. And in it, he was talking about little boys and how when they get raised and how our society currently is like trying to demasculine the male figure and XYZ and all these different areas. And he's like, what a little boy needs is to be a monster. And they need to understand that they are a little monster, but then how to grow up and control that monster to achieve things that they never thought possible, basically. Because that's what it takes. It takes an aggressive, hell-bent, strong-minded, strong-willed individual. And like to your point earlier, you said you have 4 or 5 boys out in the world that 4 or 5 strong-willed men can change the world. One strong man can. And it's just incredible to think about what that is and how it all starts at the end of the day by being having a father figure in your life, number one. But then if you have the opportunity and the fortune to be a father figure, to be one that even gives them the slightest leg up for what they're about to face and give them those basic core level resiliency items that we might take for granted if we had a dad that did it and we don't realize that's where it came from. That's your first line of defense for getting through anything tough in life that hits you.
Man, listen, it's heavy. Listen, if you realize this, they're going to turn into you, whether you're good or bad, because that you're their idol. That their need to have a close relationship with their father is at the very top of their existence. You got to decide, who should they follow, the old you or a little more refined, a better cleaned up version of you. But they're gonna. It's a crazy thing that happens. Even youth, that grow up without their dad being around, they turn out just like their father. So you got to own that responsibility, man. That's got to be bigger than you. Something's got to be more important than you.
You bet.
And that's not that easy for everybody, but I've never met too many good men that wouldn't do anything for their kids. That normally is if I'm trying to get through to somebody, I can normally stop them in their tracks with some kind of quote to have involving their children. I remember as a general manager one time, it was the end of the day, and this really talented young person it was a salesperson at a Toyota store. And I said, hey, make sure when you go home tonight, you let your daughter know that daddy didn't try. And I let him leave that way. He just looked at me, he might have wanted to say something. He probably did. He at that point, he might have chose not to because my title was general manager or something. But he didn't try that day. In commission sales or anything, you got to put effort in. Things don't just happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an easy profession where time can get away from you, and you do a bunch of tasks, and none of them really equate to anything meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can hide for days at a time if you want to, sitting behind the computer and typing emails and stuff. But the next day he said, man, that really bothered me. I said, well, I care enough about you to really bother you, because your kid, man, she thinks you're the greatest thing in the world. No way would her dad ever let her down. No way. And I saw him getting all teary-eyed. Man, I saw a change in that dude. And to this day, he's way up the ladder. He's running dealerships and stuff like that. Got a great little family, and that comment didn't do it. This guy had it in him, but
That's
bet you, I will bet you this. I bet he's done the same thing to somebody else.
Yep.
We need a little kick once in a while. You talk about discipline earlier. I didn't even know what that word meant probably until maybe really the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And really had a misunderstanding of what it meant my whole life. I hated discipline, anything close to it. So I stayed away from it. But now that I'm where I'm at now, looking back, if I could change anything, I'd put myself in positions where I would have learned better discipline earlier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where I would have been disciplined earlier, and realize the benefit of that and why. You think of discipline as getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Or I did, discipline is someone yelling at you, or you're going to the office, getting sent to the office in school, or, some kind of punishment or something. Nobody ever said discipline is doing the things you hate like you love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd have learned that earlier, because that's the hard stuff.
It is. It builds that rigidity.
Getting up every day when you don't want to get up, it's hard, man. Going to bed hungry every night, that stuff's hard. Giving up alcohol, if you're used to it, that's real hard. But it ain't as hard as that phone call I got.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough work when you're putting it in, but then when life kicks you in the face, you're at least halfway ready to take the punch, to a certain extent.
Because they're coming.
Give you the bone.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the part. It's the most important part about this whole thing. I think is that life is going to come at you, and it's going to hit you, and you never know how it's going to hit you or what is around that next corner. But the more prepared you are right now, regardless of how good everything is to weather a storm, the better off you're going to be when it happens, because it will happen. That's the reality.
Yeah.
I think it happens.
Can you take a
million
punch?
Reasons, but, yeah.
You hear what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Can you take a punch?
Yeah. I can't. I got a really weak jaw, actually.
Yeah. Well, I was a amateur boxer, and enjoyed that kind of stuff. Took karate when I was real young, but you do learn that it's metaphorical now, but being in fighting shape, it really does mean a lot. And being able to take a punch is probably as important a quality for a good fighter as how well they can give one. Remember the old Rocky speech? It's one of the best movie clips ever when he's talking to his son about what life's all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can edit that into our podcast.
We'll have to, yeah,
because it's worth watching, but it's dead on. The toughest guy out there is not the guy who is the fastest or can hit the hardest. It's the guy that just don't quit.
Mm-hmm.
that will keep coming no matter what. Hit him
Yep.
in the head with the kitchen sink, and he's going to keep coming as long as he's alive. That's the kind of guy
Yep.
I want to be, and I thought I was for the longest time, and now I was pretending. I'm working on being that guy because I want my boys to know what it looks like, and if they don't
Yeah.
see it, they're not going to know. They're gonna find themselves in positions that they don't have a clue what's going on or what to do. That until from now until I'm gone, I want to be able to live in a way that shows them kind of how to navigate through life the best way, and do it the right way, and uh, be in a position where you can help other people.
Yeah. And
You're
it
no
was
good to nobody when you've given up on yourself.
100%. Yeah. And the whole, put your oxygen mask on first before you help somebody else. You can't exactly that. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're actually hurting other people and hurting yourself, but through that, because you're not able to be useful anywhere. It's pretty
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, people pay attention to you differently, um, based on the energy you give off, you know,
Hmm.
the body language, your how you look, how you dress. Those things you can be very intentional about because it matters, man. One of the coolest things, and it is so basic, but um, we were getting ready. We were interviewing some people for a position with the company I was with, and their HR manager, um, tiny little, she's like 4'8", 4'9", and been with the company like 50 years. Just very smart, very wise, the sweetest lady. Her name was Kitty. But she went over to the window like 3 or 4 times. We were up on like a second, third floor. And I finally asked her, I'm like, what are you watching? She's like, well, I know about what the time this interview is, for our next interview, because she was head of human resources. And
Hmm.
not to mention the fact she was counseling me on all the inappropriate stuff I'd been saying, and going through the chart of I'm kidding, kind of. But hey, she was watching people get out of their car and watching their gait and watching how they walked. She was watching, paying attention to how they carried themselves and their body language, and man, she was dead on. It was so.
Hmm.
And people, they'll get in front of you, and it'll be a different person than you saw get out of that car, who took 15 minutes to put a sport coat on,
Yep.
because they're 150 pounds overweight or got a back issue or got bad knees or whatever. But and again, you remember the disqualifier or the disclaimer. Don't Anything I say, you just got to understand, probably you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying we were screening people that way, but it
Yeah.
was cool that she was looking for that kind of paying attention to detail, because people in an interview, they're going to act like somebody they're not. They're going to try to be who they think you want them to be.
That's right. Yeah.
And going back to the car, I can't tell you how many of them, just fired up a cigarette, like walking out the door after the interview.
Rip the coat. Oh, get
Yeah,
that
take
off
the
me.
coat off. You see them over there just relaxing.
Decompressing. That's crazy, man. What's the rule? I just read this in my book last night that I'm reading. Never Split the Difference is the book I'm reading, and
I've
it's a
got
rule
that
of
in my library, but I haven't started yet. But I've got it.
you, you're gonna love it, man. It's been great. Really, really good. It's the rule of body language and or communication is 7 38 55, and 7% of your communication is what you say. 38% of it is how your tone and how you say it, and then 55% of your communication is your body language. And I was just like, so to that point, you're getting way more about that person just them walking out of that car to the front door than what they
Yeah,
could do in the next hour and a half in that interview room, which is pretty incredible.
yeah. But see, all that with like the energy you bring and all, you can't fake all that.
No.
Not if you're in front of somebody that knows something, right?
Yeah,
And
and
you,
even people that don't, there's a level of there's a level of poise people have. And this is funny that you bring this up. Cause I never, that doing that 75 hard program, I think what for me, I got the biggest bang out of was again, the mental toughness piece and being able to critically self evaluate myself on a consistent now basis. And what that gives you from a confidence level that you don't even realize is confidence is weird, because when I was at our marketing meeting, we had this guy, a new, I don't know, digital sales manager or direct sales manager, something like that. I can't remember exactly what his title is. Long story short, kind of an outcast in the crowd of, we're all hunters and blue collar guys. And this guy's definitely like from downtown Chicago and never seen a blade of grass in his life kind of thing. Right. So anyway, he's just a little bit different, but we get in the vehicle after doing something to come. I can't remember what we did, but we went out, did an activity, came back, and we're going to have some more meetings. And he gets in and he goes, Aaron, I got to ask you something. I said, what? Or what's that? And he's like, you seem like a guy that just like carries yourself well. And I'm like, okay, so I don't know where this is going, but whatever. And he's like, what do you like? Is that like a military thing or like, what do you do? And I said, what are you talking about? He's like, you just like walk into a room and like, you're just there, like, boom, like you just feel it, and you've got that energy about you and whatever. And I'm like, I'm not thinking about this about myself. And I'm like, that's kind of an interesting thought, I guess. And I sat back and I thought about it and I said, honestly, man, I said, my assumption is that it's probably a mindset thing. I said, when you walk into a room, it's just more probably where you're at mentally than anything else. And it obviously reverberates itself around the room and you don't even realize it's going on, and to, after the year and whatever I had there, that kind of talked about my tougher year there with career wise and stuff. And this was the first meeting I think I'd walked into in a long time where you just felt like, I don't know, like it felt more positive about it. I guess you walk in, you're ready to just own whatever's going to come my way. And I'm not really concerned about it. I'm going to walk in here, I'm going to do my thing. I know my stuff, whatever, but it wasn't even like an air or like an ego thing. It was like with all of that presence, with the lack of ego is what I felt like I walked in there.
It's confidence.
There's nothing wrong with different space.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with confidence. It's not ego. It's just being confident. And it's also a little indicative of a person who his whole life doesn't revolve around what this guy thinks.
Yeah.
Or what this guy thinks, or what that guy thinks, and that's an evolvement, if there's such a word. I don't know, but that is a place you get to. Can you imagine what we would do, or what you could have done, or how your life could be if you didn't care what other people thought of you?
Mm-hmm. Where would our world be today if we had that the last 2 years or 3 years of where we
does, because it doesn't matter. You'll get there. When the hard enough things come, you'll find yourself at a position where you realize that there isn't anybody there anyway. There's nobody that's going to come in and save me, and there's nobody that's don't have their own stuff they're going through. Man, I think it's held me back tremendously, being so worried about what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
You feel really silly about it after a while. But people will let you disappear if you try to disappear. I noticed that year after Tyler passing, I was kind of not even visible. Even if I spoke up, or if I was out somewhere, I would try to interject in a conversation or something, and people would just ignore it or talk over me or something. I mean, you can kind of just make yourself something that just doesn't matter almost. You can find yourself where, man, I don't get this. I'm used to people paying attention when I talk. I'm used to walking in that meeting and just feeling like, hey, I belong here. This is a board meeting or shareholder meeting. That's fine. I belong here because I'm qualified and I know what I'm doing. That all can go away. I mean, people will let you disappear and just become irrelevant, and it can happen very quickly. And that's a horrible feeling, but that was part of my motivation too, because I got to the point where I felt like it just didn't matter what I said anymore. And then I'm thinking about, well, maybe they're watching me get out of my car.
Yeah.
or maybe they're watching me get back in the car, with my bad back and being 299 pounds. I mean, what an impressive man I'd become that year. I literally turned myself into something that didn't have to worry about interacting a whole lot because nobody paid attention. Kind of helped me go away for a minute.
And then and I don't know if this affected you this way, but how often do people in that position then get like a double negative on them because they're attracting that negative to themselves by almost asking for it, by wanting to be withdrawn. They get what they want, but then there's the lack of attention that comes with that. That's purposeful or happens because of it. And then how often do they sit there and go, well, no one noticed me. Now I feel twice as bad.
Well, see, I think it's worse. I really do.
Yeah.
I think what happens from there, I think it's decision time. But I think a lot of times you see the divorce, and then you see that dad's no longer really around the kids like he should be, because he doesn't want to be. He just wants to, and it goes really south. It goes bad. Lots of, in our case, in the case where you lose a child, I don't know. I should know, but I don't know the statistics, but they're really high on the family falling apart. Divorce. And, when divorce comes, it changes the whole dynamic between parents and their kids. Nobody does that right either. And that's another, we need a few hours for that one, because trust me, let me tell you how I handled my divorce.
Right. No, man. That's we got a lot to talk about. That's for sure, man.
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't have to deal with another one. But
God, no.
If I hadn't made a decision, there was a decision that was going to be made that day, and I'm glad that I said, you know what, if it kills me, I'm going to get in shape first. Once I get in shape, I'm gonna figure out what I want to do.
That's right.
And that's really as far as I could think at that point. That was it. And it took everything I had really to just focus on diet and exercise and working on me. It took everything I had, man. And luckily my wife works and I've had a good career for 30 some years and was in a position to do that. I don't know how other people get through it. That's still, because I was incapable of working somewhere. I was not consistent enough. Like I might be on the clock or out there in the field, calling on businesses that are all, but I wasn't there mentally. Like there was no shot of me selling anything.
Right.
I'd still go out there because you got to go through the motions, and I do believe that. But zero, if you're not worried, if you don't want to be sold anything, just let me be your salesperson, because you're safe for that year, for that whole about a year. Because I just, you remember Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
Remember all that. We're not taking no for an answer. We're not going to take no matter what. We're not taking no for an answer. And the first guy was like, no, he was like, all right, thanks. That was me. But that took everything for me to even like get dressed that day and to even, make myself go talk to people, because I couldn't, like, every kind of to your point, everything can start getting messed up, and there is a point where people just don't want to be around it because it's negative. I should mention this too. It's not anybody's fault. Like, man, I feel terrible sometimes when I talk to old buddies or something and something comes up. I'm like, man, I'm sorry for that, because it's a downer. It's my own stuff to deal with. Like I don't need to rebrand myself as this person that's, be careful with this guy. He's been through a lot. I don't want that.
Right.
But I'm guilty of that. I did some of that, definitely the first year. But no, they got stuff too you just don't know about. Everybody does.
Hmm.
May not be as big or as public, but depending on where you're at in life, it might be the biggest hurdle you've had to try to overcome, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm not fixed yet. So we'll keep the fix yourself thing going because
Yeah.
I think it's an ongoing thing. I'm far from being fixed, but I know I'm on the only path um, that could have brought me out of that really bad place that I was, and it justifiably so. I mean, no one has ever said, "Ken, I don't get it. Why are you so upset?" Nobody. They get it, as much as
Hmm.
you can understand that. But
Yeah. Yep.
so I don't want it to happen for nothing. I feel so bad about this, but I'm better off. I'm better now than I was then. Version of me,
Yeah.
and I feel guilty about that. Why do we have to learn the hard way? I mean, the really hard way. But that's how we learn, man. That is how we
Hmm.
learn through the
And
the
it's got
hard stuff.
ripple effect. Yeah. And it's got ripple effects for you because you got, you might feel guilty about that, but just as much as that impacted you, you've got your other four boys that are still back there and looking. And yeah, as dumb as it sounds, you might feel bad that you're in a better place now, maybe than you were before you got that phone call, but maybe you need to be to make sure that they're in a better, good enough, have a good enough example to go after and to
Yeah.
guide them through something that might be affecting them in a whole different way that, maybe
Well,
you as a
what if
dad can't
that
understand. Yeah.
think how about this? What if that's the reason it happened?
Or the reason it was allowed to happen. Yeah. You know,
That's heavy, right?
yeah.
I think about that.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole, it's something I don't think, you want proof about God. There's ideas that happen that are just too damn big to get your mind around, and I think that's a proof in
Yeah.
itself. But,
Well, listen, let
I,
me tell you what, he read the Bible, my son Tyler, and made his own decision at 14 to be saved. I was not an active Christian at that
hmm,
point. So he was the first. He was the first one. And I kind of got my act together not too long after, but a few years later. Uh, and then I got my whole family on the program. Then I became a pastor in the church, and then I baptized my own boys. But Tyler was already baptized because he made the first step. So powerful part of the speech I wrote, for the crowd that was at the funeral home was that he was the first.
he took step one and look what the ripple effect it had. And now, in a crazy, weird, roundabout way, he took step one again and look at the impact it's had. That's incredible. That's incredible. Hmm.
Again, it's heavy,
Super
and
heavy.
I don't like. I don't. I feel bad because some of the things I'll say will make you, you know, feel that way. But again, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing though, because I'm just trying to make it easier for the next guy.
Yeah, man. No one will ever be ready. That's the tough part. But you can be as ready as you can be. You can fix yourself now to prep yourself for that future. Hmm.
You there?
Yeah, yeah, you froze for a minute. I didn't know if you jumped
Yeah.
off or
No, no, no. It gave me a break there for a second, I think.
yeah,
Like I
you're good.
said, these things are happening where I can't get through everything, but that's okay.
Yeah, man, that's part of it all, dude. Well, I know you got I think I couldn't quite understand your bus schedule coming up, but I know you got some bus schedule coming up and I really appreciate you taking some time and sharing that story today. And and how you did it, and getting into Fix Yourself. And I think maybe that'll set the platform for us to hop on again. I want to get a little deeper on the Fix Yourself part of it, and this is just, again, kind of going back to step one. This is step one, and step one for us to do the podcast, together, and get praying and slaying up off the ground again, which is another step one. So there's a lot of step ones here and the whole thing's just getting started. But the place that you get started from is your foundation, and you can only build from there. And I think this whole thing with what you've had going on, and for me, again, I don't compare it apples to apples, but the 75 hard piece for me, and it's creating that step one for us to jump out and say, okay, we're ready for that next freight train when it comes, and we'll take it a little tougher on the shoulder this time.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the foundation for everything in life. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this here, man. It's definitely heavy, but I'm loving that there's things in here that I know everybody's gonna. If I want to learn anything about God, you can read the same sentence for 50 different people, and it's going to mean 50 different things to each and every one of them, and touch them in a way they need to be reached. But yeah, man, I really appreciate it.
So one last thing. So I keep talking about the importance of the father in the home.
Yeah.
Where did you first get introduced to church?
First introduced to church, man, I got it from as far back as I can remember. Introduced to church.
Did your dad believe? Was he a believer, your dad?
An honest believer? I honestly don't know. That's a good question. My mom's side is the one that came from the heavy church. So my grandpa and my grandma on my mom's side, and their whole family was just diehard every Sunday in there. And my grandparents were very involved in the church. So my mom came from it, growing up and all that. And my dad, I know my dad's mom is a believer, and I know, but his stepdad that he grew up with, I think he was a believer. He was just had a rough and gruff way of going about it when he was younger, and kind of definitely a heavy drinker and the whole nine there, and fighter and the whole nine, right? But at the end of the day, the grandpa I knew, very fortunate to know him when I was growing up at an influential age, and I couldn't have picked someone better to be a good role model for two young boys, my brother and I. As far as that, so I didn't see that part of his life. My dad did.
I knew you were going to say that.
Did you?
Yep.
How's that?
Because there's no other way. Now, I'm going to keep you going down this road before we're done. Who introduced you to hunting? Or outdoors, and doing things outdoors?
Outdoors in general. I don't know if I've got a super tight origin there. So outdoors in general, my brother and I spent all kinds of time outside, whether it was at our house in town playing football in the front yard, whatever, or I think really what got me into it was the time I spent at my mom's parents' side, because they had a farm, and we'd go out there and we'd have BB guns and that kind of thing that we could have out there we couldn't have in town. And I always thought it was super. My grandpa he's only killed a couple of deer his whole life, but hearing his deer story, every now and then, the kind of the Daniel Boone adventure way of going about it when Iowa first opened its first deer season, and he had the rack hanging in his garage all the time, and I just thought that was the coolest thing growing up. I really think that inspired it. A couple times, very vaguely, I remember my dad going out with one of his uncles. This could be a story I heard and didn't actually participate, but I think I was there in the truck. But they'd go out and drive around doing road hunting for pheasants. But that was about the extent of what I got experienced in the hunting. And then I think a little bit of molding here and there with different things I experienced getting younger, it just really inspired it in me. But really, out of my whole family, aside from my dad, got into it when I was a teenager because I was into it, and he went out and he'd done it as a kid, but nothing serious. But he definitely fostered it once I got into it, and then I've dragged my brother along for the ride trying to get him into it, But yeah, that's nothing finding, but the outside thing was just always a part of my brother and I. We were always outside doing something.
Yeah. Well, boys learn how to be men from what they see,
mm-hmm.
or what maybe how to be a good man, or the opposite. But my point is, in every case, you'll find that a young boy without a father figure like that, or an influence figure, they won't at a later age, they won't go out and start church on their own. They'll just go without. They'll age to a point where it's just, again, we're too worried about what other people think. Same thing. A lot of people that have never hunted and fished and stuff like that, if you ask them about it, it's because they just haven't ever done it.
Mm-hmm.
Their dad didn't do it, right? Their granddad didn't do it. So these things are important, especially when we're talking about salvation or the church piece of it. If men don't ever see it, they don't know how to be it.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's got to be that influence in that young man's life that says, this is manhood done right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember during my, like the confirmation process when you're a teenager, right? And had to get up on stage and do your, 2-minute speech, or I can't remember exactly how our church did it, but basically you had to get up there and kind of confess it and tell a little story behind it and however they had us frame it. And, I remember when I was writing that, I wrote my mom's dad, my grandpa, down as the guy who got me into it. But at the end of the day, he really was. He was the godly man in my
Yep.
life that, growing up. And I spent a ton of time with him, but that was very much an influence on it. And it was so much a part of his life that it wasn't even a question. There was no doubt in my mind that was just a thing that it was nice having a rock solid foundation like that. And we spent a ton of time over there. Like we weren't in our house on the weekend, we were over there.
Kids without it are in trouble. They're at a disadvantage to start,
Mm-hmm.
and they're much more likely to go out and seek inclusion in things that are not good.
Yeah.
It's if you're dad, you got to just don't forget they're watching every single thing you do, and you gotta be that influence. One of the things I've talked about before, but I want to make sure that even when I'm gone, that the voice inside my kid's head is mine. Nobody else may be around, but it's important that they hear me saying, get up. You got to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we I don't know that we give that. It's deep and it's real heavy. I don't know if we think about that at that level, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I there's going to be a lot of voices in your kids' ears as they go through life, but you want to make sure one of those voices is yours, whether you're still here or not.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You and I, when we talked about last time, I mean, there's more than I can count, things I can verbatim hear my dad say to this day that you go through a certain situation and all of a sudden you hear dad's little sentence about it, or dad's sentence about that, dad's sentence about this, and that's a reality, man. It never leaves you either. And you don't know where it came from because you don't even remember the exact circumstance you heard it, but it's there.
It's a big influence. It's huge influence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
But hey,
even with
I've enjoyed talking to you, man. We can talk forever. I mean, about a lot of different things too. I try to keep bringing it back, but I get lost and I forget what I'm trying to say sometimes because it's a lot, but it took me a long time to get here. And if we do this again, a year from now, I'll be a different guy then too, hopefully.
Yeah, man. No, we'll make it a regular part, man. I'd love to, if you're willing, you got time, I'd love to have you on, because like you said, there's so much to talk about. And, even our conversation the other day, I almost wish I had a way to have recorded that on my phone, just the freelance stuff. I love it because that's what I want. At the end of the day, I want Prayin and Slayin to be whatever it was ultimately designed to do. It was an idea that popped in my head and I felt convicted to do it. No real direction. I just, I'm interested in certain things. It doesn't mean it needs to be what it is, but I think at the end of the day that this is a really cool way to start this, because number one, you got a powerful message to get out there, but that powerful story has so many arms and so many branches and so many things that it can. There's more content in that one story and the things you can talk about with it than anybody could ever wrap their mind around or wrap a podcast around or anything. So it's exactly what I want this to kind of turn into. Is obviously like-minded people is a good way to have a good conversation, but then being able to just freelance and branch and talk about these big heavy things in life, talk about the lighthearted things in life, and bring it all together and into one spot. And I really think that's what Prayin and Slayin is all about. And if we can slap a good deer story on it every now and then, it'd be good too, so.
We'll do slaying and praying next time. And we'll talk about Texas hunting and what's different about that, and definitely from what I'm used to, but and then how we got into that, because again, that's the whole. There's people that miss out on this stuff just because nobody ever showed them, And then you get older and you start worrying too much about what everybody else thinks, and it holds you back.
Yep.
So that'll be our next.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And then I think that's a good way to end it too, because the less you care about what other people think, I think the more God can actually say what he wants to say in those spaces. Because it's not about what words come out of your mouth, it's about the message that he's trying to get across. So the less you hold that back, the better.
No, everybody's going to get there. It's just, when are you going to get there?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Brother, man. Yeah, thanks, man. We'll have to do it again soon.
All right. I'll see you
later.
Bye.
Bye. Wow, man. Can't thank Ken enough for coming on and sharing his story and just the conversation, and even what it brought out of me, man. That's pretty inspiring stuff. And I think my biggest takeaway from this part 3 is, now more than ever, and I know it's been a few months here since we've launched the last episode, but even in that few months, we've seen our world just get crazier and crazier. And I think it just showcases the need for strong men. And now more than ever, it's strong influence that's going to raise that next generation to be the generation and have the strength and mental fortitude and integrity and all the things that they're going to need to turn this world around if it's going to get turned around. So again, these conversations are awesome. And even when we were recording this, I've gained a lot more insight as to the power of what this conversation and what Ken has brought to the table here, and the strength that he's shown for his boys, and the strength I want to show for my boy, and anybody that's got men out there, young men that they're raising. We have a duty as a generation ahead to do it right, so we can give them the skills that they need and be that example that they need. So with that, guys, I think this is going to be a new branding a little bit with the Prayin and Slayin Podcast. You heard us call it out there at the end. Maybe we'll do some slaying and praying versus praying and slaying, because I think more, what this series has shown me, and just some stuff that God's been putting on my heart lately, is I want this to be more about being the best possible human beings that we can be, and being strong people, strong-willed people, and to bring everybody together in a community where we just want what's best for humanity and what's best for our neighbors and ourselves and our own families, and what God's will is for this world. So with that, the hunting stories are obviously the baseline of this. We're going to get some people in here to share those, but I think you're going to see a lot more of this sprinkled in, or probably taking the lead on what we do here. So again, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Prayin and Slayin Podcast. We do this for you guys, and to help air our heart on our sleeves a little bit. And with that, we love you. God bless. Take care of yourself, and go out there and do something nice for your neighbor today. All right, talk to you later.